Hi, this is Anna Hack from Green Talk, and today we have a really special guest on the show. We have Seth Goldman, who's the co-founder of Honest Tea. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to Seth is I found Honest Tea a very intriguing company. I mean, they're a green company that's striving to do the right thing, and I love their name. They're being honest. They're doing the best they can. So, Seth, we're going to jump right into it. Some people do not know who Honest Tea is, believe it or not. Te- I know that's kind of hard to believe, but Seth, tell us a little bit about what is the company? How did it start? What is it all about?
Sure. I started out of my house about 14 and a half years ago. And the idea was to create initially was just a less sweet beverage. And, we started with tea as the focus. My co-founder was my professor from business school. And within our first year, we launched the first organic bottled tea, certified organic bottled tea. And then we proceeded to make the whole line organic. And just last year, we converted the entire line to fair trade certified as well.
Now, you also do children drinks as well.
Yeah, we have a line called Honest Kids, which is primarily in drink pouches. And that's actually become a very big part of our business.
Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the partnerships that you've had with Honest Tea. You're partnering with TerraCycle.
Right.
You're also partnering with, you're doing this new blue recycling container. Let's take one at a time. Talk about TerraCycle.
So when we launched Honest Kids back in 2007, we were looking at the design of the pouches. And initially, we thought we had a pouch that was entirely recyclable. And it turns out there's a little part at the bottom of the pouch that's not. It's called a gusset. It's aluminum, and it couldn't be separated. And so we felt the package still had environmental merit, although it wasn't recyclable. So we reached out and partnered with TerraCycle to create these brigades where kids can collect pouches and send them in. It takes them out of the waste stream. And this year we expect they'll have 100 million pouches taken out of the waste stream collected by these different brigades.
Now, let's go a little bit about the brigades. You pay 2 cents a pouch, right?
Right.
And what have you seen with that? Have you seen that has been increasing over time, that people are getting in and recycling it?
Yeah, no, I mean, to get to 100 million, we started with a few thousand and several dozen brigades. There's now thousands of brigades, and as I said, they'll get to 100 million pouches claimed this year. And so we're able to direct a lot of resources to whether it's PTAs or Cub Scout troops or other neighborhood nonprofits, and we're also creating things that are. Actually, later this month, we're going to be using putting some bike racks in our hometown made of recycled drink pouches.
That's really interesting. But one thing that I remember, I think you're also collecting other people's pouches. Am I right?
Yeah, no, it's by far. What happened is we started it, and then a lot of other companies, including Capri Sun, which is the biggest manufacturer of drink pouches, got involved. So now it's we on our own we barely sell 100 million pouches. So it's there are far more other pouches taken out of the waste stream than just Honest Kids.
Now hold on 1 second, because I'm going to pan over to your newest venture. Just hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Now, Seth, I have in front of me on the screen the Great Honest Tea Recycle in a beautiful blue box. Tell us a little bit about this new venture.
On April 30th, at the end of this month, we're going to have our first Great Recycle event, and we're going to be in Times Square, New York City, so a pretty high-profile location. And we're going to look to recycle, if we can, have 45,000 bottles recycled during that day. So we're going to be creating all kinds of incentives for people to come out and recycle. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we also want it to be, to get the message out that we all need to take a part in recycling.
Now, are these cans going to be anywhere else or just in New York?
Well, we're starting in New York, and we'll see how it goes. But the plant, it's a reusable. The bin itself is reusable, so we are fully expect to bring it to other places.
Now, tell me, you're going to also be collecting other people's bottles as well?
Yeah, every kind of bottle. It's not just about Honest Tea, and it's not just about beverages. We'll take, laundry detergent or, any other container that is recyclable. The goal is to encourage and spur all kinds of recycling. And it can be glass, plastic, metal, anything that can be recycled. We want it.
Now, I want to hit a sore spot with me about your company. And I know you guys try and do the best that you can. The way that the bottles are sold right now, I think they're like 16 ounces. Am I correct about that, Seth?
Well, we sell in a lot of different sizes. We have a 64-ounce bottle, a 16-ounce bottle, and then the pouches themselves, too.
Because if you look at, I know you want kids to drink good drinks. You don't want them to drink sugar drinks. And I know that has been one of your mission to reduce the sugar and
Right,
have a flavorful drink where the sugar isn't actually actually the flavor.
right.
How do you get around naysayers that talk about, well, why are we giving plastic to kids?
Well, well, there's two questions. There's the single serve question, and then there's the plastic question. So to start with, on the single serve, or is that which one are you more concerned about, or is it both?
Both. You must be psychic. You're reading my mind.
Well, let's start then with the plastic. So the pouches themselves are there's no BPA or anything like that, and then they're entirely sealed. And so, then the question is the occasion and the convenience. And in an ideal world, there wouldn't be any containers. We'd all be able to download drinks either right through our sinks or maybe through our computers. But this is one of those challenges. We live we're committed to sustainability, which, the definition of sustainability is to nourish and uphold. But we live in a consumption economy, and the definition of consumption is to devour and destroy. So we are, like a lot of people, the way we live, trying to do our best to live within that contradiction. But we live in the contradiction, and if we were only insisted on only being a company, that nourished and upheld life on the earth, we couldn't produce anything. Yeah.
Seth, is there some way maybe to have a larger bottle so that maybe parents could have the opportunity to put it in a reusable bottle versus using a plastic pouch? I know you talked about that, the single serve issue, but I'm very concerned with plastic, with anything touching food. So that's one of my biggest concerns, and I know a lot of parents share that concern as well.
Well, we do sell Honest Kids in a 64-ounce bottle, but recognizing the pouch is the most frequent occasion. But the way to evaluate the environmental impact of a package is to first, think about the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle. And so by reduce, what you want to do is look for the most efficient package. And by that, I mean, what is the ratio of the product you're selling to the package? And those pouches are actually extremely efficient. So what I mean is, if you take a pouch and you weigh the liquid, over 97% of that weight is the liquid, and only 2% is the package. So even though the package isn't recyclable, it's extremely efficient. When you think about the carbon footprint of a glass bottle, as much as we believe in glass and we do see merit in glass, we do sell glass, but it's extremely, it's heavier to ship, heavier to produce, a heavier footprint, and heavier to recycle because there's more material. So unfortunately, there are these trade-offs with almost any package, and there is not yet a perfect package. One that we're excited to be exploring is it's a plastic bottle made with a plant-based resin, so it's also recyclable. But that's still at least a year off for us.
Right. See, I think that where the issue comes into play is that the environmental issue of packaging versus the health issue of plastic. And I think that's an issue all to itself, whether or not, what trumps the other, because, like I
Yeah.
said, a lot of parents are very concerned about anything, especially, fruit juice touching plastic, because of the possibility of leaching. There's just so much not known about plastic. And, the whole BPA scare, and thank goodness you don't have BPA, but
Yeah.
there's other issues as well with plastic that, keep springing up. So, that's one thing I throw out to you, that if you guys can come up with some method for parents that are concerned about that, that would be a welcome relief.
Well, we are working on it, and it's a continuing evolution. But certainly with the pouches, we haven't heard any concerns around foil-sealed pouches. So that's at least one parent should, get
Right.
about.
Okay, let's talk about, let's get into the green business. If you could go back in time, I know that's a while now, 14 years, what would you do differently? What do you see that you could have changed to be maybe farther than you are now, or maybe something that you could have done better?
Well, one of the challenges we had in the beginning was distribution. It was really hard to make our product available to people. But I wouldn't have changed it because for example, we knew we would have grown more quickly had we made our product sweeter, had we made our product cheaper. But those are things that we stuck to our guns early on, and over the long term, it's paid off. or in the short term, it was painful because it meant we had more challenges to grow as a business. But the reward is that we stood for something then and we stand for something now. And it's really the same thing. I think one frustration we have is that consumers still don't value the word organic. We see all these different studies, I just saw one this month, that talks about how consumers think the word natural or all natural is more valuable, more meaningful than organic. And organic is a federally regulated term, and with clear definitions. Natural really could be applied to just about everything.
So why do you think that is? What needs to change to be able people to understand the difference?
Well, part of it is, I guess, marketing, right, and branding. We need to, as an industry and as a group of people, educate consumers about the importance of organic. And we do all kinds of different things. We did a rap video last year, which, to my son's great embarrassment, we tried to get the word out that way. And we're going to continue to look for ways to get that out because it's really important. Organic is about a totally different approach to agriculture. And when you talk about your concern about what people are putting in their bodies, I understand the concerns about plastic, but I am even more concerned around the chemical pesticides that we're all ingesting, and they're finding these persistent toxic chemicals in spinal cords, of babies and placenta material. So this is getting into our bodies, these toxins, and that's coming from that's everyday agriculture.
Seth, you make a really good point because I happen to be a gardener, and I can tell you, like when I see things in the store, I'll say, "Don't buy that," because I know how much I have to spray it because I'm an organic gardener too, and I happen to grow tea leaves, by the way.
Oh, too?
Yeah, I do. I grow strawberry and raspberry tea leaves, and
Okay.
blueberry tea leaves, and you're absolutely right. I happen to go the whole gamut, and I'm pretty holistic, so I focused more on plastic. But I'm glad that you brought up the pesticide part, because not only are you guys organic, you're also fair trade. Talk about a little bit about what fair trade means.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just in India last month and I saw the results of fair trade partnerships firsthand. And it's just amazing what we can do through helping to support what happens with fair trade. Obviously, number one, we make sure the labor conditions in these gardens are up to world standards. There's no, child labor, no prison labor. But that's got to be a given. But then a portion of the sales go back to the community for them to invest. And so I visited a school in southern India with one of the gardens we support where frankly, the physics lab it was more impressive than what we got just down the street here in Washington, D.C. So we're helping support education. And ironically, the education is so good that when I asked the students in the school, what do you want to do when you grow up? And a lot of them, their relatives have already gone on to become engineers at Microsoft and, doctors, teachers, even one of them wanted to be an astronaut. So I asked, how many of you want to stay in the tea garden and keep working, and not a single hand went up. So, I understand this is great for their economic futures as someone who wants to see the tea industry survive. We've got to think about how we can continue to grow tea and cultivate it with a smaller labor force.
And what do you think that's going to be?
I think in a generation, you're going to stop seeing tea leaves hand-picked. Right now, every tea leaf we buy is picked by hand. And so they're going to have to move to a system where they can get the tea leaves without, hand by hand picking.
Yeah, I can tell you that takes a long time to do. I do it every right before the winter starts. I pick all my raspberry leaves. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not fun,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the future of Honesty. Where do you see it going?
We really are focused on expanding not just our distribution, but the number of people who buy our product. So we are in over 100,000 outlets now around the country, which for us is exciting because having started from nothing, that's a lot of growth. But now we've got to make more people aware of what we're doing. And so we are interested in becoming a national brand that stands for sustainability and health and a commitment to quality and great taste.
And how's this changed you?
It's been a real journey in a very positive way. I mean, I started the company 14 years ago, so I was younger, didn't have gray hair, and but I've grown up as the company's grown up and my family's grown up, and it's been a really gratifying experience. I think I went into this feeling like I came from a larger company. And I had been convinced that, in order to succeed, you really need to compromise and sort of give up, some things you believe in to do other things. And what's changed is that I have found I compromise less and less each year. And that's ironic because our company is now part of Coca-Cola. But what I appreciate about it is that Coke understands we have our own brand, our own way of doing things, and they let us do it. So, when we have decisions about what we're going to be bringing out, there's never a conversation about, oh, well, if it weren't organic, we could sell it for less. Or if it weren't fair trade, we could make more money. And those just aren't conversations we have now. It's a given that whatever we make is going to be organic. It's going to be fair trade. And that's very empowering and very satisfying.
Now, you also have a whole section on your website on sustainability about your own building. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we're in downtown Bethesda, Maryland, and what we did when we moved in, we worked with our landlord to, number one, make sure we could open the windows in the office. I mean, it sounds simple, but as you probably know, when you talk about working in a city, there's always that's a challenge. And then we've located ourselves also right along a bike route, so we've got both bike racks in front of the office as well as showers in our bathrooms. And a few years ago, we gave out bikes to all of our employees to encourage them to bike to work and to promote, their own health. And the whole office is open design. There's walls for conference rooms, but there's no walls for any office, including mine.
Has your management style changed as well?
I think I've gotten better at it. I mean, one of the things that's not fun about when you grow a company is that occasionally you have to let go of employees. And I've found that even though that's something I don't enjoy doing, it's much better to be clear and direct about it and not sort of you lose a lot more in sleep, and I'm sure the employees loses a lot more sleep when there's you try to send signals. It's like you've just got to be more direct about it. So that's one way that, even though it's not a fun aspect of the job, it's something that I would say I'm better at.
Now, it would be unfair for me not to ask you about your partner, although you're on camera. Tell us a little bit about your partner, because that's a great story.
Yeah, my co-founder was my professor from business school. His name is Barry Nailbuff, and he is still a professor at the Yale School of Management. And the idea for the company came up in his class. We were talking about the beverage industry, and he had asked, what's missing? And I had said, well, there's all these sweet drinks and all these watery drinks, but there's nothing with 17 to 30 calories. And so he continues to be a partner in the sense that we throw ideas around together. We just signed a contract for a book, so we're going to be having a book come out next year about the story of Honest Tea. And so I'm very fortunate to continue to be able to have him as someone who advises the company and helps think about our direction. And we still write the label messages together.
Seth, a lot of people who are watching this may be asking, how can I do the same thing that you did? I mean, I'm ready to leave my job. I don't see the satisfaction in what I'm doing. I see a greener pasture, not just monetarily, but sustainability. What kind of words of advice would you give them if they want to take that leap?
Well, I've certainly, having taken the leap, I can tell you it was worth it. And obviously, I'm fortunate that things have worked out. But I even then knew if it didn't work out, I wasn't going to regret it. And that doesn't mean you jump off. It did feel a bit like jumping off a cliff, but at least I had looked for a place where I could find a soft landing. And I didn't have a parachute in the sense that I had a fallback, but I knew I was able to find a job elsewhere. So you want to make sure it's a risk you're taking that's informed, where you understand what you're doing. But the rewards of being able to create something you believe in, to be able to control and shape and create something you believe in, are extremely powerful. And when you feel like what you are doing can have an impact on the world, on the way people live, on the way they interact with each other, and even on their own health, that too can be gratifying and powerful and exciting. It certainly leads to less sleep and probably a little more stress. So make sure if you do, if you're a part of a relationship, make sure the other folks in the relationships are on board with it. You can't do it alone. And I also encourage people to think about having a partner at least in the idea. Barry wasn't a day-to-day business partner. I mean, I was making the decisions, but he was absolutely committed to the idea and supporting it, and someone I could turn to at any time for advice or encouragement, and occasionally a scolding, just to sort of make sure, because it's a lonely undertaking. No matter how many people are around you, it can be lonely. So you really want to have someone who you feel has got your back.
And I guess with your book coming out, that'll even be more telling.
Yeah.
And we'll be back again when you have your book, so we can talk about your book.
That'll be a lot of fun. It's actually a comic book. So it will not be your typical business book.
Really? It's a comic book?
It's going to be told in graphic form, yeah.
Oh, that's great. You're going to get the attention of like teenagers.
Yes, we'll get a whole new generation of people thinking about green business.
And actually, the funny thing about it that you mentioned that is that I find that generation is much more entrepreneurial.
They are.
Seth, I really appreciated you taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule to give us, an interview on what makes Honest Tea honest. And I appreciate the conversation we had today.
Thanks, Anna. Great to be with you.